Hello and welcome to week 7 of the 12 weeks of Halloween. What you are looking at here is an envelope treat box, but of course we are going to do it up for Halloween. And as we are technically at the end of week 7, I'm actually doing the voiceover for this on October 1st, 2023. We are reaching a point where we're going to have to start creating our projects in bulk, right? Where we're going to be working with whole packs and making multiples of what we're creating. So that was the theme here for week 7. Now I'm going to go through each one of these boxes. The number one candy that we keep on hand is Reese cups. So you're almost always going to see that from me. But in here, I had a little sampler pack of jelly beans. And so I just wrapped a little pack of jelly beans and put it in there. So we basically had two themes. And then you'll see this is the Them Bones Designer Series paper. And with Them Bones Designer Series paper, I tried to use as many of the patterns as I could for these boxes, just to give you some, ideas about what to do with your papers and your patterns. This is a great project for scraps, actually. So if you have been cutting down your papers from 12 by 12 and you have some leftover pieces, the envelope treat box project is going to be a great way to use some of those pieces that you have left over. So here we have a bat theme. Now you'll see on some of these that I decorated the back, and on others I didn't. So sometimes I decorated the sides, sometimes I decorated the back. I really loved this one because it was an unusual color combination. I ended up using Cajun Craze for the haunted house and for the little tombstones. And I thought it was really cute with that houndstooth pattern. And then here is probably my favorite, is just this night scene, the night scene paper, and then some of the striped starry sky paper. It's kind of hard to tell in that scale. And of course, we're going to turn these into window boxes. Oh, and the one thing I wanted to mention is most of my boxes are in the portrait or, vertical, and this is horizontal or landscape style. So if you prefer the landscape layout, you could do it that way. And then here, so this is probably the closest to a past paper pumpkin kit. If you had the Bon Appetit set, there's a pattern of paper that has these smaller skeletons on it, and I'd have to double check the size on that, but they're really close to the size of the skeletons from Bon Appetit. And then here we have a little fun combination of the bones in the haunted house. And then of course this fantastic Halloween plaid. So this is really featuring the Them Bones Designer Series paper. And we're going to get into making these. This is the original box that we're going to be sort of, manipulating very slightly to create a window. You don't have to create a window, but that was my goal here so that kids and trick-or-treaters could see the little goodies that they were getting. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to jump into making this envelope treat box. Now, one thing that I do want to say is that you can, manipulate this treat box to look however you want. You could do this with the characters, with the trick or treat sentiment. I chose to go with a tombstone theme and then also a haunted house theme. I hadn't had a chance to work with the haunted house very much, so that was something that I wanted to do. And when I was showing these treat boxes, I realized I forgot to dot some of the eyes of the little bats on the houndstooth pattern. So I just decided to do that right here in the beginning of the video because I'm not actually recreating this box in the video. So I just thought this was a fun detail. This is something you could do in whatever your favorite Halloween color combo is. If you want green eyes, red eyes, blue eyes, I think it would be a lot of fun. Purple eyes. But if you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, I would love to have you subscribe to the channel. We are working through the 12 weeks of Halloween currently, but I also do a lot of paper pumpkin videos, alternate projects, things like that. We also work with, making everyday cards and lots of card making tutorials on my channel. If you give this video a like, that will let me know and it will let YouTube know to keep making videos like this one. Okay, so there are a few things with the 12 weeks of Halloween. I was not able to go live this week, so this is actually a pre-recorded video. So there is no live for week 7. And this is what the treat box looks like before you assemble it, before you put it together. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut our window box into it. But here is what I recommend. And you can choose, whichever die you want for your window as long as it fits within this frame size. But I actually recommend putting the DSP on your window before you cut it. This way you don't have to worry about getting a perfect lineup because you've cut them both at the same time. Now our envelope treat boxes are a little bit thicker than regular cardstock, and I know that our dies are designed to cut through single pieces of cardstock, but I had no problem cutting this in one pass. Didn't have to run it through multiple times, didn't have any problems with that. So I recommend just putting a little bit of multi-purpose glue around the edges of the DSP and putting it down. Don't put the glue in the center because we're going to cut that out anyway with the dies. Now I use 2 dies to create my windows for these particular envelope treat boxes. One is a deckled rectangle die. In the size of that deckled rectangle die that you are seeing there, I have my ruler right here. It is, it looks like the size of this die is 1.5 by 2 7/8. Okay, so there's multiple sizes, and the rectangle dies, that was the one that I chose for the deckled rectangles. And this is going to be a haunted house box. Now here's how you fold this down, and you might find a better way than even what I did, but I wasn't too concerned about lines and things like that. What you want to do is take your envelope and you want to fold one of the flaps over. And the reason for this is it's too wide to run this through the plates without the other side, with the other flap getting damaged. So if you fold one flap in, you can see it's just barely overlapping the die. And then you can place your, your plate over top. Now, if you want to adhere your die in place, I totally understand. I did not do that for this particular tutorial. And then we're going to go ahead and run it through. It is going to create some slight line impressions where you folded it over, okay? But we're going to be covering the place where there are lines for the most part with DSP, and then that little flap actually gets tucked into the envelope in the end. So this way you protect the flap on the one side and you can fit it and run it through no problem. Okay. Now I know that there are people out there who have lots of tricks for not getting lines. You lay down an extra piece of paper or something like that. So if you have anything, that you want to do, I just didn't take those precautions with these boxes. I don't think that our trick-or-treaters are going to be looking that closely, but it's totally up to you. Okay, so just pop that out. And then to complete your window, you're actually going to make, a window sheet. You're going to cut it to size. So you can save that little piece that you cut out for another project. But for this one, we're going to, use our window sheet. Now, I use the window sheets for every single box that I created for this video, but I only filmed myself creating 2 of the boxes, one with the haunted house theme and one with the tombstone theme, so that you can see how I did each one of those. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut our window sheet down. Now, with the window sheet, I would actually, cut that a little bit closer to the box size. So that area there. So you could cut it to 2 1/8 by 3 3/8, and it would be just fine. You would still be able to fit your adhesive. But if you want to bump it up slightly, you could actually go to, let's see, 2 3/16 of an inch. So just 1 notch down from 2 1/4. And same with the 3-inch. So you would do 3 7/16, which would be just short just one notch down from 3.5. And so that was what I did with all of my window sheets. Now we're also going to cut our DSP for the sides of the boxes, and that's what you see me doing right now. And the sides of the boxes actually measure 1 inch. And I think that the full length of the side of the box is 3.5. Okay. So, what we're going to do is cut it to 2 7/8 by 3 3/8. Or if you really want to have every part of that box covered, go up that one notch higher and do the 3 7/16 if you want. 7/8 was pretty close to the 1 inch mark there. So I did want to have the majority of those pieces covered. Now for the short side, you're actually going to cut it to 7/8 by 2 1/8 of an inch. Okay. So you're going to need 2 of those and then 2 of the longer piece to do the sides of your boxes. And then here, I just stamped the haunted house in Cajun Craze and it came out perfect. I actually really liked the way that it looked in Cajun Craze. So cute. We're also going to stamp our tombstones, and this is from the Tricks and Treats stamp set, by the way. So we're going to do our tombstones in Cajun Craze too. But if you want to have some fun with the color themes, you can certainly do that. You could use, pumpkin pie or something, if you want to use traditional black. I thought it was a little bit too harsh with this particular houndstooth pattern, which is why I chose to go with this one instead. But we're going to have some fun decorating our box here. So let me talk for a minute about the envelope treat box. The envelope treat box has 2 sides to it. There's a matte side, which is face up right now. That is a side that is safe to stamp and all of that lovely stuff. And then there's a shiny side, and that's the other side. So when you're cutting in your window box, when you're gluing your DSP, down, you want to make sure when it's fully open like that, that those little glue tabs are facing up. That is the matte side of the box. That is the side that if you want to do any stamping before you assemble it, you will. If you want to, adhere your pieces to it, then you will do that right before you put your box together. And then the shiny side is supposedly or what I believe to be the food safe side. So if you are handing out something handmade, I just can't imagine people would be like throwing something in the box that isn't wrapped. But if that's not true, if you can think of something, just shout it out in the comments. Now, I did use the full bundle for Tricks and Treats because I'm cutting out the haunted house with the coordinating die. So yes, Tricks and Treats, I think, is one of the cutest bundles in the catalog. But I did take some pieces from the Bag of Bones set 2, which we'll be talking about in a minute. Now, I could have sworn that there was a die that cut out these little tombstones, but I could not find it anywhere, and I did not look in my catalog to double check, so I just decided to fussy cut them. But if you happen to know if there was a die with this or not, let me know. I had to keep it moving for the sake of time, but if you don't like to fussy cut, you could always stamp those out on like a small rectangle or something. But I think that they're a really nice little addition, almost like a little graveyard right next to our haunted house, right? Just really simple imagery, but it really comes across. And because we're not overly decorating these boxes, it has a nice impact for what we're doing. So for the 12 weeks of Halloween, each week, what I have been doing is providing a free project sheet, which I will have a free project sheet for this week as well. This week's project sheet is going to be pretty simple because it will just be the measurements used to decorate the box and then the instructions for how to create your window sheet. But I have been doing that. So if you are interested in the free project sheet, you can find that in the description box below. If you were looking for the past 6 weeks that were already done for the 12 weeks of Halloween, I will have video links to the past 6 weeks in the description below. I also have a Heart of Halloween Facebook group where you can interact in there. People have been showing their projects in there. It's been a lot of fun. And then I keep track of each week and, the video recording, the photos, and the project sheet in the group. So if you're interested in joining the Facebook group, I will have a link to join the Heart of Halloween Facebook group in the description box below as well. So I'm coming in with my Daffodil Delight Dark Stampin' Blend, and I am just coloring in the lines of each of the windows. I am actually going to do the door too, just to keep it consistent, just so it looks like there's like an overall glow coming from the house. So even though there's no specific yellow, I thought it was a really nice touch. I thought it really added to the scene. I did the same thing with the haunted houses on the boxes that were already done in black. And for the black this time, I used the Stays On ink instead of Memento. And that was because I wanted to get a really, really opaque black look with my haunted houses and with my imagery and everything. So I did do the same thing where I have like the glowy windows, but with the black version of the haunted house, I was experimenting and I used Lemon Lolly cardstock as the base just so that I wouldn't have to do all of the coloring. And it looked a little too bright. So I did end up going back in with Pebbled Path and kind of muting any line that wasn't a window. And then the Lemon Lolly is what glows from the black haunted house. So you can, figure out what works best for you, whether or not you want to use your blends or you want to use your cardstock as the glowy window, or if you just want to leave it as is. And then one thing that I did discover when I was, working on my boxes is the direction of the patterns. So I will say that with them bones, the majority of the patterns do have a certain direction. So you just want to fold your box and, double check the way that it's going to look once your box is folded. Like, is the direction and the pattern consistent? Again, I don't think that our trick-or-treaters are going to be looking too closely, but for those of us who are card makers and crafters and making our little 3D projects, we can get a little bit technical where we do want to get that right, in terms of the presentation. So just something to be aware of there. I found with the houndstooth, I think I did make a mistake with the layout of one of my houndstooth pieces, but I did find with the houndstooth that it still looked cute, it still looked cute, even though I think I put one of the pieces on upside down. So just one of those things to keep in mind. Now, if you want to decorate those back flaps of the treat box, the envelope flaps, you can do that, I'm sure. There are different ways that you can go about cutting your measurements and your layers for the flaps. Some people will just glue a piece down and literally fussy cut around the edges. So you could do that. But I actually liked seeing that it looked like a white envelope in the back. I did put bats and I did put a gate on one of mine just to kind of add a little bit of fun back there. You can actually stamp on it. I die cut in a moon and stars on one of them. So you can do a couple of fun things with decorating the back of your box. But I was really more focused on decorating around the window and then letting the candy show through. So in terms of what this treat box will fit, and what you see me doing now is cutting that window sheet. And so I'm cutting the window sheet pretty close to size there. And then I'm going to adhere my window sheet with the Stampin' Seal Plus. But in terms of what candy that you can fit into this box, like I said, the depth of the box is about 1 inch. And the length of the front window is actually 3.5 inches. So that can fit a decent amount of candy. That could fit two, fun size, pretty much any candy bar that I can think of. So, whether you're doing Three Musketeers, Snickers, Kit Kats, Reese cups, shouts them out to me, Mounds, Almond Joys, Butterfingers, Clark bars, Heath bars, anything that you have in that sort of fun size, I would say you would probably be able to fit too. Now that said, I only put Reese cups and jelly beans in mine, but I also, we have a local chocolate shop called the Pink House, and I love it there. I go there to get gifts sometimes. I've shown the Pink House chocolates in different videos of mine, and they had this like stackable pumpkin mold. So I bought one of their chocolate stackable pumpkins just to see, and it fit in this box absolutely perfectly. So if you are, buying maybe a little bit more fancier chocolate, just depending on how they have it packaged, you might be able to fit that in there too. You would just want to make sure that it's no thicker than 1 inch, and its width, and then in terms of its height, you're looking at 2¼ by 3½. So it can fit a decent amount. And the flap, it's just the very tip of the flap that goes on the envelope treat box. And on the original envelope treat boxes, they come with these like faux wax seals. It's like a foil printed gold seal, and it's a sticker, but it looks like those old school wax seals. It's really cute. So even if you use these envelope treat boxes for an everyday thing, or if you're doing favors for, a harvest meal or for Thanksgiving, and you're putting these at their little table settings, that would be really cute too. And you could just use whatever. They have a lot of fall themed candies out right now. I was just looking, they have like these really cute foiled Hershey's Kisses in a fall pattern, which are separate from the Halloween ones now. So you could fit a bunch of, little Hershey's Kisses in here. So it's really cute. So what I'm doing now is I'm adhering the tabs, and I do apologize for my hand being slightly off camera there. Somebody recently left me a comment and said, I've noticed that you have a tendency to go off camera at certain times. And typically that's if I have to do very specific detail things that like I have to line up with my eye, and then I don't realize that I'm pulling it off camera. So if I'm fussy cutting, or if I'm lining up the edge of a box like I am right here, but all you do with the box is line up the tabs and, stick the tab on the inside of the box. So it's pretty simple to do, and you can see what the box looks like when it's finished. And of course, with our little window, sheet inserted there. Okay, and so now for decorating the box, when it comes to using the dimensionals, you can use your regular dimensionals. I was crafting in a different part of my house than I typically do, and so I only had my foam adhesive strips out. So I decided to use the foam adhesive strips for all of my, popping up all of my dimensionals on the front of my box. So that's why you see me using those. But I will say they're very handy because they're very narrow. And when we're working with a space like this, that could be very helpful. So sometimes when I am crafting, it is a little bit rushed. And so if I do have to craft in a different part of the house, or if I have to film in a different part of the house, I usually only bring a couple of things with me. So it's, not everything at your fingertips like you would typically have for a video. So here, I want to show you really quickly. These are the sticker seals that I was talking about, that you could use with, or that come with your envelope treat boxes. Aren't they pretty? So I did not feel like they were, ideal for Halloween, but they would be perfect for fall. Absolutely perfect for fall. Okay, now in terms of the envelope treat box, it's on page 126 of the 2023-2024 annual catalog from Stampin' Up. And it is item number 159788. It's $8 for a pack of 10 of these. And then it contains 20 gold foil stickers. So the thing that threw me off was the number of the foil stickers. I was actually wondering if I had misplaced some of my envelope boxes, but if you're buying if you're buying these by the pack, it's actually a pack of 10 envelope treat boxes. Okay. So it says they are food safe. Okay. So that was one thing that I did want to mention to you. Okay, good. All right, so there we have that. And then on the back of our box, we're actually going to use a die from a different die set. So I've been mixing and matching in my die sets, and from the mini pocket envelopes dies, I really wanted to use this little oval. I love ovals. We don't have a lot of ovals to choose from right now. And so another thing that you could use if you don't want to use this oval is if you have the deckled circles dies, those really resemble that sort of wax seal too. And there's so many different sizes to that. You could certainly find one for the back of this box. But I went with the oval. Okay, and then I'm just stamping Boo to You from the Bag of Bones stamp set in Cajun Craze ink onto pumpkin pie cardstock. And then I would just put a little bit of glue on the one side and then tuck this down, but don't make it too difficult for you to close the box. This is one of those things where you're not going to keep opening this box and showing this off. So it's a little bit different when we're doing demonstrator videos versus when somebody, when you're finished with a box, you put it aside, you give it to the person, and then they open it. You don't have to be too concerned with, where the seal is because they're going to break the seal or open the seal. But here you can see me kind of working it out. I just wanted to make sure that it was centered, like lined up and centered. And so isn't it cute? That is our finished box. Okay, so we're going to jump into the next box. And for this one, I'm only going to show certain parts because it's all the same measurements. So we're not going to redo all that. But I do want to just put in a reminder here because even I'm guilty of this. Put your DSP down first. Glue it first and then cut it out. That is the Tombstone die from the Bag of Bones dies. So I did use both the Tricks and Treats bundle and the Bag of Bones bundle here. But if you would just want to choose one theme and make them all haunted houses, or choose one thing and make them all, the Tombstone theme, you could do that too, right? So it's up to you. Now, this is the bat pattern, which, I mean, I've been going crazy with the bats this season. I don't know about you guys, but I will say, as we are getting into this, oh, and so this is Pebbled Path Luster paper, by the way. So the in colors, the new in colors for 2023, 2025 has a luster paper pack in the annual catalog. You would get all 5 colors in the luster paper. I just used this for the last 5 months in my club. And I just wanted to use the cutout piece to get a sense of where to cut out this window because we're going to line up that mausoleum door with our window here. So I just sort of eyeballed it and then placed it down with a little piece of washi. And even if the washi would take off a little bit of the DSP pattern, it wouldn't matter because that little that door, that mausoleum door we're going to put on there, it's going to cover it. So it's totally up to you. But just a reminder, it's easier to glue that DSP down first instead of doing this in like 3 steps. So with the Tombstone, there is an extra step, right? Because we're cutting the window into the treat box, but we're also cutting the window into the mausoleum door. So it's going to be a couple of passes for this one, but oh my gosh, is it worth it? I think the kids are going to go crazy for it when they see it. It's just so much fun. So this is my window sheet. Now, of course, when you cut those full strips, you can just cut, 2 and 3 at a time, just depending on the size of your window sheet. Our window sheets come in 12 by 12. You get 2 sheets in a pack. So just something to keep in mind, depending on what your choice of, if you're doing bulk, which a lot of you have told me you are, doing either bulk 3D projects or bulk cards. And if you are willing to share with me, let me know where you are. We're a little bit past the halfway mark in terms of getting our projects made. Do you know how many projects you need to get done? How many have you gotten done so far? Check in with me and let me know. I am going to be doing, a little check-in on this in October. December, because that's when we have to kind of get serious and make sure that we get all of our projects done. So you might be, retired, and you might just be doing this for fun for the neighborhood kids. And some of you have reached out and said, oh, my son, my grandson, they're in their 20s and I still make them cards, or I still make them 3D projects. And you know what? I guarantee you that they love it. So here you can see I'm using those foam adhesive sheets to put our tombstone, or the door, right over, just lining it right over that window that we made in the box. Isn't that, it is the coolest. It just looks so cool to me. I think that that is so much fun. Now, if you're going to do the next part the way that I did it, you're going to need 3 of these die cut gates in the basic black. I can't stop making these gates in the basic black. I thought about doing this in Pebbled Path too, actually, but I still did this in basic black. But we're going to wrap one around each side of the box, the side and the back, and then we're going to do one in the center flap that folds into the envelope. So that's why you need 3. So, and again, I'm so sorry that I went off camera here, but all I'm doing is adhering the glue. That's it. So you can see with the line up here, just trim off the gate so that it's, lining up with your flap. Make sure that that doesn't overlap or close that little slit that you're going to need. We're going to do the same thing here on the other side. And then I glue those first 4 planks, or the first 4 spokes of the gate. And then once I fussy cut this little edge off, then I glue the rest of it down to our flap panel here. Okay. So just real basic in terms of the die cutting, but it has such a cool look to it. And again, if you would want to do stamping or anything like that, stamp some bats or any of that, you could do that right here. Now, here's where we're going to do our 3rd gate. And then you can also cut out your bats at the same time. It's a really small die, it cuts out 3 bats. The bats and the gate are also from the Bag of Bones dies. So for me, it just feels like one gigantic bundle with between Tricks and Treats and Bag of Bones. I've been mixing and matching them so much. Now here is that Pebbled Path luster paper. So we're going to use our larger Mausoleum door die, and both the Mausoleum door and the Tombstone dies are also from the Bag of Bones dies, and that is in our mini catalog, September to December 2023. For those of you who have been following along, these are wildly popular products. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to line up this Tombstone die with that impression. It lines up perfectly. It kind of locks into place, like when you start to press down on it, you can feel it like locking into those embossed lines. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut that out, and we're going to cut a couple more bats. We're going to use a bunch of bats, okay? Cut out as many bats as you possibly can with your little extra little scraps of basic black cardstock. I think the bats would look really amazing in the Pebbled Path luster paper too. So for those of you who have taken my club and you have that luster paper, you have that sampler pack, go ahead and use it for some of your Halloween projects if you're following along with the 12 weeks of Halloween. And so that's the way that I created that. And I do think that there are, so many creative ways that you can get interactive with cutting those 2 pieces apart. But for now, we're going to keep it nice and simple with decorating our box. So I'm just going to adhere my glue. I'm going to keep my glue focused on the lower part of the gate, because as you can see, as that flap kind of leans in, we're going to be fussy cutting the top pieces off too. And we don't want to have glue there. We don't want it to be sticky. We don't want to mess up our scissors, right? Or if you have a separate pair of scissors for adhesive, which I know a lot of you do, then just use those instead. But yeah, so once you close your box, even if it isn't a perfect lineup, you get that feel of the haunted house crooked gate, right? And then we're going to go ahead and we are going to glue some of our bats on. Now, I chose to do die cut bats because I adore them. There's something about seeing them slightly raised off of the box, it just has such a look to it. But you could very easily also do the stamped version of the bats too. I believe that both stamp sets, both Bag of Bones and Tricks and Treats, have a bat stamp. the tricks and treats, I think it's a trio of bats, and with the bag of bones, I think it's a single bat. But you guys, you can correct me on that if I'm wrong. So that is our little box. And like I said, those foam adhesive strips are thin enough that you can run them along the sides and they will not show through. Now here is that oval from the mini pocket envelopes dies. Again, you use whatever die that you feel is best. There's some really cute tag dies right inside the tricks and treats that you could use. But ovals are a favorite for me. And I just thought it had a really cool look with it on these particular tombstone treat boxes. And once I start getting down to it with making multiples of things, I kind of like to go with the same layout. It's just easier, because you're not creating something unique and different every single time. You don't have to, think it out. You just know I need X amount of these. I need X amount of these. You're just going to boom, 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 get them all cut and scored. So here's one in basic white. Here's one in pumpkin pie. I was trying to decide which color to do. So this is the Stays On Black ink. I ultimately decided to go, I believe, with the pumpkin pie for this particular cool, combination of papers, but you could do whichever one you want. And if you really want to get fancy, you can have the candy that you put inside your window box match, or you could do a little wrapper with like the skeleton paper, or put a little skeleton on the inside there, and that would be really cute too. But this one was really more about the candy than the characters for me. But we do still have 5 weeks left of Halloween. Now, I don't know if we're going to have product left. It's getting really low, but we're going to, get creative here and see what we can do. But there you go. There is today's week 7 envelope treat box project. I hope that you enjoyed them, and I will see you again next week. All right. Bye-bye.